to each and every one of you for being here with us tonight. Today marks our 10th annual International Jazz Day, and we are proud to be able to host it today here at this wonderful place with you all. The celebration of the 10th International Jazz Day is truly a momentous occasion for Samoa. Music of all kinds is part of our spirit, and we are delighted to be part of this international event. Part of iSpy's being is to support and engage with community-based projects. Before we get into our exciting program, I have to thank a number of people without whose help this event would not be possible. Firstly, we sincerely thank the Office of UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, and in particular, Nisha, the UNESCO Director and Representative for the Pacific, for this partnership and the Spotlight Initiative for crediting the opportunity for today's event. While music is ingrained in our society, regrettably, Samoa is not immune from domestic and intimate partner violence. Our goal tonight is to continue to raise awareness on the plight of women, girls, and our non-binary community who are the victims of violence and prejudice. We are using the power of jazz to promote peace and education, diversity and inclusion, freedom of expression, the intercultural dialogue of music, and especially jazz is a powerful tool with which to help us achieve our goal. The theme of tonight and the message we wish to promote is serious and cannot be understated. However, we hope to convey our messages to all those people and families affected by violence and share with you our hope, joy, love, and peace. It is our pleasure this evening to welcome you all here, and before we move on with our program, I am so honored to introduce our special guests that make up our panel for our discussion tonight. I would like to welcome Peter Suleppa, who have joined us on Zoom. She's a founder, producer, festival director. We all know Samoana Jazz and the Arts Festival, the two Samoas, American Samoa and Independent Samoa. Our second guest, who's joining us through Zoom from Australia, is Leata Masifau. Leata is a Samoan jazz singer and also a music teacher. Our third guest for tonight is Namu Laulu, I'm sorry about that, Namu Laulu Francisca Sione, who works for Samoa Victim Support Group as a youth coordinator, and he's a vice president. He studied fundamentals of music theory at the University of Edinburgh, former tutor and assistant director of the National Orchestra of Samoa under Mix. Our fourth panelist is Valentino Maliko. He's from Lelata. Valentino is one of the co-directors of Space, Samoa Performing Arts and Creative Excellence. His dancing comes from mom's side and singing comes from dad's side, full package. Our final panelist is Desiree Fruin. She is an artist, a dancer. Ms. Fruin enjoys R&B music, loves to listen to music, especially to heartbreak songs. Well, there you go. So a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. So before we get into all our questions, we are going to have the hard talk. We're just going to go into one music break, and then please stay tuned because it's going to be a very, very interesting and inspiring conversation. Great start.
Yeah, we do.
We do know that you are returning very soon, though, Aliata. You will be coming back from Australia as soon as the borders open?
Yes.
Could you just give us a quick rundown what you'll be doing when you get back?
Oh, so it's just in motion. It's really just at the moment we're just trying to get it all up and running. But studying just for vocals and piano at the moment. Just a school with at the moment I'm here in Australia trying to get it a lot for Samoa and the music industry in Samoa. But yeah, hopefully try and get some aid from Australia to help out. And yeah, I'm just arriving. We're just touching base at the moment. But yeah, I'll be back and working more on music and more on singing.
Malo, Lava, thank you. When are you planning to come back, sisters? Pizza? Are you coming back very, very soon?
Opportunity to reconnect with the dance fraternity. Also with funding agencies, connected with the University of Wellington, so that we can actually during that what we developed in the system continues to grow.
Hello, great. So we are going back on the radio now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. For those of you who have just joined us on iSpy Radio, that's right, we're having our Jazz Jam Night and our Spotlight Initiative discussion. So stay tuned. We've got some wonderful guests that we've already introduced, but we are going to hand over the microphone so that they can introduce themselves. So our first guest tonight that will be speaking will be Valentino Maliko. And Valentino's going to tell you a little bit about himself. And his first question for the night is, what jazz artist would you say inspires you?
Thank you for the question. My name is Valentino Maliko from Atlanta. I'm one of the co-directors of SPACE, which is Samoa Performing Arts and Creative Excellence. Sorry, can you just repeat the question again, please?
Absolutely. What jazz artist would you say inspired you?
Some of the jazz artists that have inspired me through my artistry, people like Ray Charles, people like Louis Armstrong, Jasmine Sullivan, as well as people like Amy Winehouse. You know, I love that their lyrics are very relatable, and it really comes from a place of either whether it's darkness or whether it's happiness. It's just really truthful, and I really love that about their artistry.
Your second question is, how would you describe the music industry in Samoa, and what changes would you like to see?
So I think with the music industry in Samoa, one thing that we all notice is that they like to take popular music, especially when it comes to R&B, country, as well as hip hop music, and they like to do a cover and a re-edition in the Samoan lyrics and translate everything into Samoan lyrics. But one thing that I'd love to see a change in is, just like today, celebrating jazz, I'd love to see more diversity, within the music industry, as well as originality.
Oh, my Lord, that's a wonderful answer. And every artist that you named, I know very well, because it was my era. Oh, my Lord. So, Peter, yes, for your question, this is Peter Suleppa. For your question, please, would you like to introduce yourself? And your first question is, jazz, the same question that Valentino had, which was, what jazz artist would you say inspired you?
Okay, thank you for the question. I first actually came across jazz at high school. I went to high school in New Zealand and I learned clarinet. And my clarinet teacher introduced me to active, which opened my whole world to jazz. But the singer that really inspired me into my love of jazz is the late Mavis Chloe Rivers.
Yeah.
Is talented and New Zealand's top jazz singer. A lot of people don't actually realise that she's Samoan, and a lot of Samoans don't actually realise that she's Samoan. She was the first woman to record on Frank Sinatra's album, and I met her. I met her personally when I was resident singer at the Godman restaurant that was owned by the late Derek Godman, and she challenged me to when she comes back the following years and 50 years. She wanted she wanted me to sing some jazz songs because at the time I was singing with a trio and we were singing Middle of the Road pop, and she gave me my first jazz course. Unfortunately, she died before I was able to sing them to her, but it inspired me to create the Samoa Jazz and Arts Festival to bring the memory home so that Samoans will know who she is. And to also know that jazz actually came to us in the 1900s, you know, between World War I and World War II. And when I first came to Samoa, I got opposite pushed back by musicians saying, you know, what's jazz got to do with us? You know, why aren't you doing reggae? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? But you know, once we tell our story to the world, all of a sudden, it opens up the amazing possibilities that we have a jazz legacy that emerged from the 1900s. And so that's what has inspired me to, and then to bring her son to Samoa to celebrate the memory. You know, not only Matt Patton, who's a Grammy Award winner, you know, there are so many amazing Samoan jazz musicians around the world. And a lot of our own local people don't know that either. So, yeah, you might need to stop me because I can talk about this.
Oh, no way, Sissy, no way. Going back on what you had said back in, when you had met her, and then she had inspired you, because I've also heard of Vegas Rivers, and it was you that inspired me to listen to her a lot more, because you know that my favorite song is the Tama Samoa that she sings, and I always hunt you down, no matter where you are in New Zealand, sing, and then I'm in the audience, and no matter what's happening, I'm like, Tama Samoa, because that is one of her most beautiful, beautiful songs, and you do such an amazing version of it. So yes, Mavis Rivers. Oh, okay. Your second question, please, Peter. How would you describe the music industry in Samoa, and what changes would you like to see?
Well, I don't know how to use the word music industry.
Thank you for the quotation marks.
Yeah. You know, I have an opinion on what I define as the music industry. What I would like to see more and more is the kind of initiative that Nelson has described and previous speakers described about developing our talent. And, you know, I'm seeing it at the National University of Samoa, you know, with the research program. We need more and more of that. You know, but I'm seeing some people want to just jump to the other end before we actually nurture the talent and build the foundation. And what I would like to see is us connecting. And one of the things that someone at Jazz and Arts wants to do is to nurture that talent, get some scholarships going so that our young people can study further apart. And we have some around the world that can help that connection, you know, in Australia and New Zealand and so on and so on and so on. So one of my biggest complaints about the music industry is, you know, it's all about bass, really loud. And so I'm really particular when I'm using sound engineers, for example, they have to be able to understand the nuances of music. And so I just, for myself, when we have jazz events, I'm really particular because honestly, you can't have a DJ sounding live if they're not used to doing live, if they're not live musicians. So understanding all of those particular aspects of music is absolutely important. And you know, that's not to put down DJs, because DJs have a really important role in the fostering of music.
Oh, well said, and raw and very true. Thank you so much, Peter. Absolutely, absolutely right. Well, we're going to go into a music break, and then we're going to come back with some more questions and some more discussions on this wonderful subject. But thank you so much, Peter, for that, and thank you, Valentino, for your answers. I would like to open up the floor. If anybody would like to ask a question to Peter or Valentino on the questions that we had just spoke about, on the issues we just spoke about. We're good for now? Okay. put you hold on, please. Could I have the microphone? Thank you. Would you like to introduce yourself and ask your question, please?
Hi, Peta. My name is Anna Becca. I work with UNESCO. I would like to ask you, what would you see as the future of jazz? What type of interventions could happen in Samoa, in American Samoa, in order to promote this music genre? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I was very privileged in 2019 to be invited to go to the International Jazz Day in Melbourne, and I attended a workshop that was run by Herbie Hancock and Herbie Hancock's students, young people. And then after that, Herbie told a story. He was a young man, and he really admired Miles Davis, and he got the opportunity to play keyboard for Miles. And so they started the song, and Miles threw the solo break to Herbie to start the solo. And Herbie said he hit that first note, and he knew straight away that he played the wrong note. He finished the solo and he felt really terrible, and then he looked up at Miles Davis, and Miles Davis took over the solo and started on the same note that Herbie started the song at. So afterwards, Herbie said, "I'm so sorry, I played the wrong note." And what Miles said to Herbie was, "There is no such thing as right or wrong. We interpret the music as we hear it, as we feel it, the dynamics between the players." And so what I also do from Maple River Sun, is that we have many entry points to jazz. For myself, when I was studying at university, I joined the jazz rock band, and so I came through that. There's also soul jazz, there's also the blues, and in the United States, there's a whole movement of where hip hop meets jazz, and so that's the beauty of it. There is no right or wrong. There is no one way to do it. And for example, Leata and I, we could sing the same song, but we could sing it completely different to the audience. And so I would like to see that kind of talent be nurtured and to grow. That's what I would like to see in Samoa, and those opportunities to be broadened out as much as possible. So there's no right or wrong. There's no one way of doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does. Thank you very much for the answer.
I have a question for Petra. Can I have a mic? Hello, Petra. Emile here from United PA. My question is, just flipping to the channels in Samoa, we're more into reggae. What's the other one?
Country.
No, not country. The other one.
R&B.
The other one. The popular. The kids nowadays.
TikTok.
Back it up, back a little bit. Rap. Yeah. That's three words. Yeah, but so they were more into reggae and rap kind of music. Even if you listen nowadays, jazz is like more for like my age kind of genre. And so what are your thoughts about that? Is that something that's progressing, or that's how I feel about it. For panelists.
The question was, is jazz progressing?
I'm saying that right now it's more reggae, more rap kind of music that you listen to, that you hear now. Not so much jazz incorporated into it. If there's a song, it's not very popular song, they'll try to make it turn into a rap or a reggae line. So I mean, that's where they're heading. How would you come in from the jazz angle to jazz it up?
Let me tell you that in American Samoa, they teach jazz at primary school, not jazz, they teach music at primary school. And what we did in one of our international jazz days was that we held a workshop with teachers of primary school teachers. And because they had the question, what is jazz? And so we actually also did a demonstration because, the Samoan beat, it has 4 beats, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. And with the jazz swing beat, it is also a 4, 4. And so we were able to get the teachers to think that it is a natural fit with Samoan. I'm not talking about rap or anything like that, but the commonality with say, the genre of rap is that it's spontaneous. And with jazz, for example, scatting that happens with jazz. But I'm not sure whether I'm actually answering your question, but one of the things that we do as an organisation is we create opportunities where we can showcase.
Where's the mic for this?
Artists demonstrating how to play jazz. And one of the exciting things for me that I am seeing since we started the Samoa Jazz in 2014 is that I'm seeing Samoan music and Samoan jazz emerging from Samoa, and they're doing it a lot in American Samoa. And that's the thing about the jazz, that as it travels across the globe, different cultures embrace it as their own, and then they churn out their version of it. For example, girl from Ipanema, they call that Latin jazz because it's got a Latin beat, right? And so with Samoan jazz, there's a really nice swing that happens with Samoan jazz.
Lava, seki. Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Peter. Very enlightening. It's so nice to actually hear people who are very well knowledgeable in their field. So thank you for that, for those answers. Anyway, we are going to go back on. Welcome everybody out there. If you're just joining us now, we are having Jazz Journey here at Ice Cream Radio in the studio with the UNESCO crew and the Spotlight Initiative group. We are having the discussions about jazz, and we're going to be getting into the hard talk about subjects. So, for our next question, this is for Francisca and Beata. And Francisca, if you would like to go first, please, my dear. If you'd like to, Francisca, would you like to introduce yourself? And your question is, were there some time while performing or out for a music gig where someone had made you or a friend feel unsafe, and how did you handle these situations?
Thank you, Tassi, for the question. And hello, my name is Francisca Sioni, currently working at the SBSG, Samoa Victim Support Group, as the youth coordinator. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this event. Sorry, could you please say your question?
Absolutely. Were there some time while performing or out for a music gig where someone had made you or a friend feel unsafe, and how did you handle this situation?
Thank you. I think this only happened to me and a couple of friends this one time. And it was actually our first time to perform live in front of a very big crowd in one of the hotels here in Samoa. And it really put us in a very uncomfortable situation where we were deciding whether to continue the show or not. So it was a very tough problem that evening. I still remember everyone just stopped playing the instruments and just decided to, you know, walk out of the stage, you know. They just didn't want to continue the show. So to me, it really put me off, and I think that was the last time, if I still remember correctly, that was the last time I played in a public place, because that really put me off. And what I learned from there is that, going back to what Peter said, it's not really a genre of music that's really much appreciated here in Samoa. And I believe that it's because maybe, it's just my assumptions, that maybe because Samoa has a youthful population and the majority of the youth, they're into reggae music and pop music and rap music and all that, easy listening, catchy tune music. But jazz, I think it's because of, you know, this too much emphasis of improvisation, and I think that's what makes it complicated for our people. And you know, here in Samoa, when something is not catchy, you know, no one wants to listen to it. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we have here in Samoa, and we are still trying to, you know, jazz it up. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Please, Leasa, could you unmute?
Yeah.
Awesome, loud and proud. Leasa, from Mongolia, would you like to introduce yourself, and could you give us a rundown of your thoughts on music and its healing? How did music help heal you? Were there some times while performing or out for a music gig where someone had made you or a friend feel unsafe, and how did you handle these situations? Would you be able to describe what had made you feel unsafe, and then how did you handle it?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question. My name is Yata from Afema, residing in New Zealand, well actually residing in Australia at the moment. I don't think there's ever been a woman performer who has not been harassed by an audience member, a guy who's not been hit on by somebody. I guess because you're the center of attention, and I would say, there's been a few times where obviously you've been again hit on, and sometimes you can just brush it off and just think that's okay. I can, you know, perform through this. But then there are times when you just really just need to step back and just take a, 5-15 minute break. I've always just had my brother always supporting me, so I've always had support. But in that, I always take time for myself and make sure that my environment where if I'm okay, my team is okay, and if we can continue to go because I always feel like this show must go on, but always take time off, take intervals, breaks, if you need to, always speak to the managers if it's at an event, to try and, kind of calm that person down if he's doing too much, and even have some workouts around you, girls.
My Lord, Lava. That is a good answer. I would like to open it up to the audience if anybody would like to answer a question. Francesca.
This is really a comment towards Leata. Thank you so much, Leata, for sharing your testimony. I think it's quite important to actually recognize when harassment happens and not to dismiss it, whether you're in a public place or out in a private place. And your message as well, to ensure that when girls are out, that they are actually with somebody else, and make sure you have a buddy with you, is quite important when you are going to public events. And also, I think it's not just public events, especially when you are also out walking or not even at a fun place, entertainment area. So I just wanted to say thank you for saying that, and to actually say harassment does exist. and to recognize it as a problem. And I also want to thank the music industry for also bringing that out as part of the different arts and different songs and through the different lyrics. That's also portraying the messages of just looking and making sure that we understand what harassment is and having a zero tolerance attitude towards harassment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful discussions. We're going to go into another music break, but please stay tuned. We still have a few more panelists that are going to speak on this very, very important matter. So yes, stay tuned after these messages. Thank you. Yes, I'd like to open up the floor for anybody else who has questions. Yes, Sula.
This one's off Facebook Live, and they said to ask Leata. Right? Yep, sorry, let me just find it. Sweet. Somebody on Facebook asks, in consideration of the aesthetic of contemporary art and music in the modern world, how can a genre of jazz preserve the text of old Samoan traditional songs?
Could you repeat that one more time, please, Sula? Did you get it?
Yeah, I think that the question is more for better, but I think we kind of already see it now coming into the modern times. How just we call it like it's like old school, old school classics, old school jazz. I think that what happened back in the day really speaks out, and I think that we need to, it's making sense. Okay, so, I think that we need to, it is important for us. Sorry, can I get the question again? Let me see it.
Okay, let's repeat it one more time. It says, in consideration of the aesthetic of contemporary art and music in the modern world, how can a genre of jazz preserve the text of old Samoan traditional songs?
Preserve the text of old traditional Samoan song. It's a wonderfully hard question.
Yeah.
Oh, would you like to?
Yeah, if I could respond to that,
Yes,
there
please.
are some amazing legendary musicians, for example, the late Meta Solomona, and also the American Star Warning, we've got Suleppa, and like the Miller family, they were already creating the genre emerging the genre because, as I mentioned earlier, jazz had come to our shores from the 1900s, and so the impact of contemporary music influencing our Samoan music has been great, and it also keeps on doing, picks it up and weaves it through, and I'm seeing some really exciting music that's coming through. I've had discussions with, for example, Kunyama, and they have the capability and capacity to do jazz as well. And so there are there's some beautiful jazz coming through from Samoan musicians, and also structuring our older songs. Let me mention, he put out 2 albums now called Samoan Souvenirs, and Stephen Eads, for example. So, you've got the Millers, you've got, so, and there are musicians like the Tomara Tais, Steffi Bang, and Donald Brown, and also the old Mandy and Puma. So it's there. What would be wonderful is if we start to bring together the intergenerational, the younger people and the legendaries, the older people, to start creating some music together. That would be wonderful. And that's called innovation. And you know, that's what jazz does. Jazz allows you that freedom to create a new possibility.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you very much for your answer. Thank you very much also to Leanza for her answer on that. Is there any other question from the floor on this subject before we move on to our next subject? Please introduce yourself and
Again,
ask
it's
your question.
Ellen from UNESCO. I am going to direct the question to Franz. Obviously, I know that you work with SPSG and the band you have is often collaborating with them. So my question is really about how you think music and performing arts in general can contribute to dealing with social issues which are this hard, such as domestic and intimate partner violence. And if you think that music can actually change mindsets and behaviors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen, for bringing this up. This is a very interesting question. Well, I have no experience at all in the field that I'm working in now. It's been 3 years now. But before, when I came into Samoa victim support, I only had music. So I, thought maybe I can incorporate music into our programs, especially for the children, because I saw the rise and the growing number of children being sheltered at the shelter in Suleppa. And I thought to myself, maybe music, because I've seen how music, helped and healed many lives around the world, and I thought maybe it would work also here in the context of our country in Samoa. So, and we introduced music. So now they study music, they have music in them in their curricula, and surprisingly, it really worked. These children, some of these children, they were not really, open to us. They couldn't talk, they couldn't say anything to any of us, but we tried to make them talk. And this was how we slowly opened their minds and their hearts, and to gain the trust so they can openly share with us. And slowly we saw them transforming, over time, and we saw that they've changed and improved a lot with their behaviors and things like that. And so I believe that music can heal. Yeah, thank you very much.
Lola, thank you, Francisca. Very inspiring words there.
I have a question. Not a question.
Yes. Welcome back to iSpy Radio. For those who just joined us, we are in the middle of our Jazz Jam and our discussion here on the radio tonight. But we have some questions from the audience with the subjects that we just spoke about. Yes, would you like to introduce yourself and ask your question?
Thank you, Tassi. Emilia again from UNFPA. I think the question is more following up to what Samoa Victim Support was saying. Because we're here because of the Spotlight Initiative that is sponsored by the European Union. And basically it's trying to address and prevent violence against women and girls. And this is a cross-cutting issue, and it's not just in music, but right through the village stakeholders. Everybody has to address this issue. So coming from the music side, this is going to better again, and the others. How would you see the music, jazz in this sense? Try to address, bring to the front this issue of violence against women and girls, and through music, because I know there's a lot of other activities by the Minister of Women in raising awareness on violence against women and girls. But how do you think music can contribute into that discussion? Thank you.
That question was for you, Peter. Please.
Okay, sure. And I remember when you first approached me to discuss the particular issue, my response immediately back to you was, well, if we're talking jazz, and jazz is one of those art forms that came is the fact that the principles of jazz is about unity and harmony and world peace. And as jazz musicians, we work with other jazz musicians. You know, when you work together with other musicians, you learn to communicate with each other in the music. You learn to communicate with the audience. And you know, there's a leveling out that happens. There's a mutual respect that occurs in the jazz music. It's about the principles of jazz, and that's what we celebrate every year on International Jazz Day. So that, you know, we don't stand for violence. You know, the genre, the principles of jazz does not stand for violence or injustice. In fact, on the contrary, the reason why it is an International Jazz Day is because we stand together. And those are the sorts of principles that, and because music is such a universal language, it brings us together. And, you know, let me give you an example. I can walk into a room in another place in the world, and there could be a group of musos on the stage. We don't even know each other, and they might invite me to sing. We come from different countries, we don't even speak the same language, but as soon as we start playing music, okay, already we're one, you know? And we're listening to each other, and and the music is flowing. And so I think as jazz musicians that this particular genre is something that offers a platform for our music. I know when I hear headbanging music, and you probably experience it yourself, you hear that music and all of a sudden my body changes. I respond differently. My brain responds differently. But when I hear jazz, and when I'm doing jazz with other musicians, something happens. Something magic happens. So I don't know, that's my response.
Lola, thank you very much. So while we're on that subject of sexual harassment, I would like to introduce our very beautiful guest, Desiree, here to represent the non-binary community. Desiree, would you like to introduce yourself? And your question is, what do you think the public might be able to do to help? What could be the best way to inform the public of available services? What do you think, how can the public help with these situations of sexual harassment, especially to young girls and our beautiful non-binary community and to ladies?
Saluko all. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Des. Respectfully, I would say that I am the youngest member of our panel here.
Respectfully.
I am a member of the Brown Girl Woke community, and I am also currently a second-year bachelor student at the National University of Samoa. Regarding your question, I think the public is aware of the acts of violence.
Sorry, Desiree, we'll just bring another microphone.
The public and everyone, I can confidently say that everyone is aware of the aftermath of violence, and implementing the available services that we have is not only through the actions we do, but through the words we speak. Violence can affect a person's life in very different ways, and it takes a simple word of advice or a simple action of loving to take that person's mind away of such an issue. The public's way of implementing available services such as Samoa victim support and Paksawa Leola. I believe the public just needs to be more kind. Needs to be a safe space where anyone can just come up and be safe talking to, because we are in a community where we will be judged by anything or everything we do. And we can't do anything to change about it. One person, two persons, those two people can make a difference to save one's life in businesses we have. Thank you.
My Lord, thank you, Desiree, for those beautiful words. I'd like to go, we're just going to go into a music break, but please stay tuned because we still have some wonderful conversations coming up. This is iSpy Radio 87.5. Please, I would like to open up the floor for any of our panelists who are available to answer if anyone has any questions on this very, very important issue. Even if you don't have a question, maybe you might just have a comment about it. So the question was, I'll repeat it for our very, very informed audience. Sexual harassment, what do you think the public might be able to do to help? What could be the best way to inform the public of available services? Please go ahead, have the microphone, and would you like to introduce yourself?
With the Spotlight Initiative, and thank you, Desiree Malolo, in a public space. I just wanted to share my thoughts on sexual harassment, and I think this is important. It's quite an important topic that everyone has to recognize, everyone has to understand, and this is starting from even our children, adolescents, up to the older population, and because in Samoa sexual harassment is quite real, and that we also have to, in terms of just going back to what you had said, how do we inform the public about sexual harassment? I think what we can do a lot more is also getting more of our communication materials out there, doing a lot more with the media as well. There's quite a lot of communication advocacy programs happening out in the villages, but we can do a lot more to increase and scale up those programs, as well as just getting different actors from different settings involved. So those are just some of the ways that we can also, and also through music. You can also channel the information. As you said, this is one of the best platforms there is to send out strong messages about a critical issue. So I think it's also through here. Thank you.
Malona, thank you very much. Yes, please. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Suleppa, and I represent the United Nations Secretary General in Samoa. So I'm particularly honored and thankful for the invitation tonight. Just a few words to add to what everybody has already said, and maybe to give different perspectives on the topic. So this is not an easy process of change. We looked into countries that have started this transformative approach in person-to-person engagement many years ago, and still we see that there are cases happening on a regular basis. But Samoa did make a very important step forward by ratifying an important international instrument, which is Convention 190 of the International Labour Organization, that bans all forms of harassment and sexual harassment in the workplace. Of course, the ratification doesn't mean much unless it translates into laws and regulations and practices and is ultimately adopted by everybody in the workplace. But it is an important beginning. And the United Nations here with a large team, some of my colleagues are here, some are joining later, are here to support that process. But it's ultimately about understanding that there should be boundaries in the way we express ourselves in a workplace. Something that we think is harmless might be actually harmful, hurting for someone in that work environment. So it's just a matter of understanding where limits should be set, and how we respect the safe space of someone else and their set of values, and while still continuing to working together. So we look forward to, first to have more conversations on that topic, but then to also see the change happening. Thank you.
Malola, thank you. Thank you very much for all of those comments. Very, very beautiful and inspiring. So we're going to go back on and do our last question for today. Welcome back, everybody. This is iSpy Radio 87.5. For those of you who have just joined us, we are in the middle of a very, very important discussion about jazz, about healing, about sexual harassment, all the hard to talk about stuff, but all the stuff that really needs to be heard. So, to finish up our program, I would like to ask our guests to please say, this is your question, all our panelists, can you give us some words of inspiration? If there is one thing you want to say to someone watching, listening, what would you say? Let them know where to find you, and also let them know where to find you. Can I repeat that question, please? It goes, if there is one thing you want to say to someone watching or listening, what would you say to them? Can we please start off with you, Francisca? And we will go around this way. And to our beautiful ladies over there in Australia and New Zealand, we're gonna go around this way over to the Leata, and we would like to finale you, please, Peter, if that would be all right. Thank you.
A word of inspiration for us this evening. Leave no space for violence. You know, in your family, that's where you start from. You start with yourself, start with myself. Zero tolerance of violence. And then out in the public, this is one of the common problems that we have right now is the bystanders, and I want to address that also because it's very important that we think, because we tend to think that when something happens to someone and we try to refrain ourselves from that, but just be mindful that you do have a part to play in this. You know, if you see that someone is in danger, they need your help, and that's a word of encouragement from me. You know, no space for violence. Start with what you have. You start within your family, yourself. Just be a good human being and be kind and be loving. You can find me at Samoa Victim Support main office or on email svsg@gmail.com or through our helpline 24/7 800 7874. Thank you very much.
Malola, thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the question. Not all battles can be seen, and everyone is having their own silent battles that no one else can see. And
Malola.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I'm a loss of words right now. I can get very emotional on such topics. Responding violence to violence will never be the answer to your problems. And I would also like to implement health issues, like mental health issues in our country. We are a very family-based community, and I believe that mental health of our youth is not really considered a priority by the parents, by the age group that my parents are in, because depression is real, and that is a battle that most of us youth cannot be open to our parents about, and we consider that violence for ourselves. And we believe that in our own families, that should be the safest space for us. And I myself consider a person that is very safe to be open to. I will not spill your secrets. But you can find me anywhere on social media. I am a TikTok influencer. And you can find me on Facebook as well. But if you want to share, I am always around. Thank you so much.
Hello, thank you so much.
Thank you again, Sasi, for the question. I think, one thing that we generally tell ourselves is we try and keep to ourselves. We try and, not let the outside world see the problems that we're going through. But, I think it's really important that we let everyone know that it is okay to not be okay, yeah? And I think it's really important that even if you're not the type of person to go look for these services, to go, you don't have that kind of courage, or you don't have, at least have someone there that you trust, that you can at least take the first step of just talking and just being open and just, just letting out whatever, but, at the same time, it has to be someone that you can trust and someone that you know will help you through that. And because, coming from experience, I wish that I had someone that, when I was growing up, I wish that there was someone that I could talk to. I wish it was it wasn't such a sensitive topic to talk about in the household. Otherwise, my adulthood would have been, a lot better, and my teenage years would have been a lot easier. If it was, not so taboo to talk about these types of topics inside the household. Because if you don't feel safe talking about it in the household, why would you go and talk about it to anyone else outside of the household? So I think it's really, really important that we make these types of subjects and these types of, movements really, really open within our households, because that's exactly where everything begins. So yeah, whakatairanga.
Whakatae fo I mālo lava. Real inspiration for us. Leata?
Yeah.
Hi, welcome
So,
back.
hi. So my inspirational words would be love, love, love. Music is love, and love one another, respect each other, and be your own person, be your own as a woman, we're strong, resilient, and we have a voice. As a performer, harassment it's a no-go, and we have a voice to speak out and say no. So anyone, speak to anyone. I'm on social media. If ever you guys want to get in contact with me, have any other questions, and but love is all I can say.
Mālo lava. Thank you so much, Leata. Sorry, Beta, would you like to give us a finale on this?
Sure. As a festival director where we had our event, I'll approach it from that perspective. And what we try to do is we create an environment for performers to be able to perform, and safe spaces, green rooms so that women can change here and men can change there. But we in what we do, we have a culture of practice, and we set a foundation. I have not yet, I guess somebody else has been, we've never had to hassle during our events. And so it's really, really important that we speak to each other. We call people out. If there's any behaviour like that, we call them out on it, we report it. We also make sure that there are safe practices around drinking and intoxication. So there are practical things that we can do as event organisers, and that's the sort of thing that we can have an element of control in our own spaces when we have events. And as club owners, and as musicians ourselves, we need to walk that talk, and when we're working with each other, and whether you're working with the people who prepare the food in an environment or an event, or the people who are serving the drinks, everybody takes an important role in upholding And what she said was, it is the responsibility of an artist to articulate and to speak out, whether they express it in their music, or speak out about what's going on in society.
Lord, thank you very much. Well, it has been a very interesting night, and I hope that everybody has joined us have been inspired by the discussion today. It is a hard discussion. It's something here in Samoa, like our panelists have said, it's a taboo subject. But one thing I would just like to add on to this conversation, to all of those that are listening out there, it's not your fault. That's all it is. It's not your fault. If this is happening to you, it's not your fault. If it's from somebody that you trust, there is help elsewhere that you can go to. If you're not feeling safe in your space, you can go and find help through victim support. You can speak to Dr. George over at the hospital, the mental health. There's a hotline for suicide awareness. There's help out there if, in your particular case, it is your family members that are hurting you. And that is one of the biggest problems here. It has always been swept under the fala, but those days are gone. Women have voices, our non-binary community have voices, girls have voices, and even our boys have voices. Everybody has a voice. So yes. Anyway, on that note, I would like to thank everybody who joined us tonight for this wonderful discussion. I'd also like to thank the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization in collaboration with the Spotlight Initiative for supporting this with us here at iSpy Radio. And all these interviews are going to be on Facebook and also on our YouTube channel. And each individual panelist also have their interviews excuse me, I'm sorry, also getting a little bit emotional thinking about our discussion. Their interviews will be coming out next week and the following week. So we've got a whole month of awareness. I thank you again to the listening public, to everybody on Facebook for their wonderful questions, and for our audience that joined us today, whaketai lava. But I would also like to give a very, very special thank you to our beautiful panelists that have joined us from overseas and locally to speak out. Thank you so much. And ladies, we are so looking forward to Samoan Jazz. So get on over here. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And that's it for us for tonight. Thank you for joining iSpy Radio. And back to the music. Malula.
I want to announce that we're going to be back with a jam. Yeah. It's going to take a while to tell them.
Thank you, everybody. All the hot stuff is over. Now it's time for a little bit of celebration.
We're just going to take a quick break from our discussion. Up next we have our jazz jam, so stay tuned for that. For now, that's our next lap. So stay tuned.